Good evening, hockey fans. My name is Matt, and welcome to another game review. This one is Game 3 between the Boston Bruins and the helpless Carolina Hurricanes. So, as I do on this channel, I like to go through the periods, give you a recap of everything that happened, the goals, any interesting points, and kind of give my opinion on it. So, without further ado, by the way, I'm an expert, so listen to my opinion. I know what I'm talking about. First period. We got Rask in nets. And on the other end, we're all expecting to see Mrazek, right? Wrong. Because we don't get Mrazek. We get McElhinney. Curtis McElhinney. Have you ever heard of him? I sure haven't. Because he's a backup goalie. His whole life he's been a backup goalie. Right? Okay. So it might sound like I think that was a poor decision. No, I think that was a great decision. Peter Mrazek, the magic's kind of wore off. The Mrazek miracle is kind of worn off. And he just didn't do anything in games 1 and 2. Granted, the whole team sucked in games 1 and 2. But Mrazek certainly didn't give his team a chance. So here we are, starting game 3. We got McElhinney, the backup goalie. But I will say something. Very good numbers for a backup goalie. He came from Columbus. He went to Toronto for a little bit. And then Toronto had a choice. They could either keep McElhinney or Garrett Sparks. And they kept Sparks. And I think that was the poor choice because McElhinney got shipped off to Carolina. And he's playing in the Stanley Cup Eastern Conference Final. So McElhinney starts, good decision. So you know what the story of the first period was? Special teams. There was a lot of power plays. They were talking about Chara, who plays on the penalty kill a lot. He played more penalty kill minutes than he did 5-on-5 minutes. And I think the second story of the game is Tuukka Rask. You got to give it to Tuukka Rask. And Finland has always been a country that produces great goalies. And I know Tuukka Rask has always had his shares of, people blaming him in Boston. He's always been kind of the scapegoat. And being a Montreal fans across the border, I never got that. I mean, sure, he's never won the cup. He went to that final in 2013. But I don't know why he got so much hate. He's a pretty I'm sorry, my voice cracked. He's a pretty reasonable goalie, pretty solid. He's always done the job. But this playoffs, I think without a doubt, he's proved the naysayers wrong. Because, as you guys all know, Kucher, he's current. If the playoffs ended today, I think Logan Kucher deserves the Conn Smythe Trophy. My second choice would be Tuukka Rask because he kept them in, and especially in this first period, give or take 20 shots were fired at him, which is crazy. People get 20 shots in the game, and he was solid, and he stopped every chance, every opportunity. And if the Carolina Hurricanes walked into the second period with a 2-0 lead, I mean, forget about it. It's a whole different story. So good job, Tuukka Rask, proving the naysayers wrong. I don't like to make fun of people's looks, but man, his face, it looks like he was made out of candle wax and he got melted halfway. But anyway, so Williams, another one with gray hair in his beard. So Williams, we all know what happened between him and Marchand. So what happened in the end of game 2, Marchand hooked him to the face. Okay? Williams comes back, grabs his chin strap. Somehow, Williams is the only one who gets a penalty. How is that fair? I don't know. I think the refs should have gotten a slap on the wrist because by only giving Williams a penalty, you give guys like Marchand free range to do whatever the hell they want. So what happened in game 2 kind of transpired into the first period of this game. And Williams was just running all over the place, I remember at some point at the face-off dot, he just punched Marchand in the nose. Granted, it's kind of a big target. It's hard to miss, nothing special there. But he still punched him in the nose and got away with it. And he took a penalty against Krug. It was kind of an interference, kind of a charging. My opinion was it was kind of a weak call. I feel bad for Williams. It seems like everything that's called against them I don't really agree with. But Torrey Krug did a good job of selling it. Good job, Torrey Krug. You sold it, you little prima donna. And Williams was wild. He went to the bench. And as I said, Marchand got punched in the big nose. So I just wanted to comment about something that I don't think anyone else has realized, but okay. In case you guys don't know about me, I'm an old folk. It's like I'm born in the 1850s. I hate music nowadays. I like Beethoven. I like classic rock and roll. Did you guys hear the music that was playing in that arena? I mean, that DJ, he deserves to get shot. Like, what was that music? It's this kind of teenage millennial trap music infused with techno dance funk music. It sounded like vomit. I rather listen to vomit. So every time there was a stoppage in play, I had to put my fucking TV on mute because if I were to hear another goddamn song, I was going to slip my wrists. And I don't care if I get any blood on the carpet. So music in the building, very bad. Another thing I realized is that both teams hate each other. When I knew Carolina was going to make a long playoff run, I kind of rolled my eyes. They're not the most entertaining of teams. Let's face it, they don't have like big superstars. They kind of have more of a team mentality. But I realized that after every stoppage of play, they were just going at each other, both teams, and you could really sense the hate, really sense that both teams cannot stand each other. So second period starts. It's still 0-0. You could cut the tension with a knife. And in the beginning of the second period, Wagner scores. Chris Wagner. And that was a dagger because I felt like whoever was going to score that first goal was going to win the game. And in the end, I was right. And Wagner scored, proving that scoring for the Bruins does not have to come from the first line. If there's some days where Pasternak is cold, and it seems like these playoffs he's been cold more often than not, the depth players can take the reins and score goals, such as with Chris Wagner did. By the way, on that play, where the hell was Justin Falk? Like, I get it was kind of a wonky play that he thought the puck was going somewhere else, but do you see how nonchalant he was on the back check, just coming back to cover Wagner? Hey, Justin Falk, you need to be better on that play. So it's okay. You're a good player. So continuing on the second period, not much happens until Marchand scores. He goes to the backhand, puts it on net, and I feel bad for McElhinney because he's kind of an old soul. You're kind of rooting for him, right? And when Marchand shoots that puck, I have a feeling he could have saved it if not for Haan tipping it with his glove. Haan, and I've played hockey before, and sometimes the puck comes at you and you kind of like flip your hand up to try to save it. It's kind of a reflex. And that's what happened to Haan. Unfortunately, he put it in his own net. Okay? But Haan would redeem himself because near the end of that period, he scores an ever-important goal for the Carolina Hurricanes, and he goes 5-hole on Rask. And as much as I've praised Rask, all game he's been great, I think he'd want to look at that goal again. Like, he gave up a little bit of daylight. Haan found it. I still don't think a goalie of that caliber, the way he was playing, I don't think he should have let that in. And I think he'd be the first person to admit it. And he showed to the Carolina Hurricanes, who, thought they were down and out. He showed to them that, hey, Tuukka Rask is human and he's beatable. So I was very excited to see the third period. And I was very excited to see what would happen from there. Would the Carolina Hurricanes, would they come back? What was going to happen? And, speaking of Rask, there was a play in the second period where Dougie Hamilton, by the way, Dougie, you're an adult. Call yourself Douglas. We're not kids anymore. Dougie, my name isn't Maddie. It's Matthew. I'm an adult. I have facial hair. We both have facial hair. It's time to write Douglas. Anyway, he made a brilliant pass to Sebastian Aho. And beautiful save from Rask. He read the play, went across from his left to his right, and just stoned Aho. So before we move on to what happened in the second period, in the third period, something caught my attention. And if you were watching Sportsnet, it may have caught your attention as well. Krug who I aforementioned is a little prima donna, goes up to a fan and starts talking to him and starts saying not so kind words that I cannot repeat on this PG-13 program. So he goes up and starts talking to a fan. And if you guys don't watch hockey much, you know that interactions between the players and the fans are very rare. You don't see that very often. And the fact that Krug, you got to stay on your game, boy. You're 5'9". You'll pay attention out there. You can't be talking to the fans, And sometimes the fan is a jerk, so it's kind of justified. But they showed the fan he was just cheering. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He had his Carolina shirt, it was signed by all of the Carolina players. He was just cheering. So Torrey Krug, in case you're listening to this, which you're not, but in case you are, focus on hockey. Don't go talking to the fans. They deserve to be there. They paid their ticket. You don't go talking to them. You don't get thrown off your game. I mean, this is peewee shit. You're in the National Hockey League, Torrey. And Torrey it's a girl name in the first place. I wouldn't be scared if I had to fight a guy called Torrey. Torrey is a girl name. My favorite porn star is called Tory Lane. So anyway, moving on to the third period. And story of the third period, penalties. Penalties. And they seem to be killing, particularly the Carolina Hurricanes. Both teams were awarded 5 power plays, which is a crazy amount. It's been a while since I've seen 10 power plays in a game. But this time, it was Calvin de Haan who finishes scoring a goal and takes a penalty. And Marchand sold it nicely. And by the way, you know how people say the longer you have a dog, the more you're going to look like it in the future or some shit like that? Well, Marchand's pet dog must be a rat, because I know they call him a rat, but he actually looks like a rat. I've never seen an adult, I've never seen a guy who looks that much like a rat. He is a human rat. I wouldn't be surprised if, how players drink Gatorade on the bench? I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the bench and pulls out a wheel of cheese and starts nibbling on the cheese. Marchand is a human rat. And he sold the call, he got tripped up. And Bruins go on the power play. And Krug, the man who likes talking to fans, he scores. And we all think it's a goal. Bruins think it's a goal. They're celebrating out there like it's a goal. But lo and behold, the referee raves it off. And if you really look at the replay, Jake DeBrusk, who was in the crease, he completely bowled over McElhinney. And you could make the argument that the defenseman Slavin, he kind of pushed DeBrusk into the goalie. You can make the argument, but I think that's kind of a weak argument because, DeBrusk just went into the goalie. And to prove my point, the Bruins even tried challenging the call. Cassidy put a challenge, and they didn't win it. The call on the ice stood, and there was no goal. And by the way, guys, did you notice the referee who called the no goal? He kind of had the same voice as the nerd in Robot Chicken. He was kind of like, the call on the ice stands. There is no goal. He kind of had that really nerdy redhead voice. If you guys notice that, please leave a comment. Let me know. So, no goal. And the last 5 minutes of the game, moving on, the last 5 minutes, all Carolina. It was all Carolina. They were pressing. And Rask just held the fort. Rask was great. And they pulled the goalie, but nothing could do. Rask was just too brilliant. And it just looks like they ran out of firepower. The Carolina Hurricanes, it looks like they're mentally fatigued. It looks like they're physically fatigued. It looks like the fairy tale's over. And I was just going to come to where do we go from here? What's to expect moving on into the series? So Carolina is down 3-0. If you were to ask me if they could make a comeback, what would my answer be? Not a chance. There is no chance of this. If there's any Carolina fans, I feel for you guys. My team has lost to the Boston Bruins, fair and square. It's a fair and square game, but I could relate to you is what my point is. I could relate. And if you look at the amount of teams that came back from an 0-3 deficit, I think I can count them on both hands. It's less than 10. I'm pretty sure. You don't quote me on that, but I do know that it's not happened very often. It hasn't. But hey, what I like about hockey is the unpredictability. And is it impossible? Absolutely not. In fact, the Bruins were up 3-0 on the Philadelphia Flyers in, I want to say, 2012, I believe. 2012? 2010, right. 2010. Bruins up 3-0. Flyers come back to win it in 7 games. And a lot of those players are still on this squad. So is it impossible for Carolina to win it? Absolutely not. Is it probable? Absolutely not. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Little known fact, I'm actually in my underwear right now. It's just my jeans were a little constricting. I gained a little bit of weight, but I still came to do this review despite that. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like. I hope you subscribe. If you have any comment, anything you agree with, anything you disagree with, I'd be glad to hear it. Please write in the comment. I will most likely reply. I'm a really nice guy. I'm a reasonable guy. I know I come off as a dumbass, but that's okay. That's okay. So thanks a lot. Please like and subscribe. My name is Matt. For this Sin Bin, signing off.